Welcome everyone to another episode of LivingYosh. I'm very fortunate to have someone who helps a lot of people change as many lives. Danna Pycher is my guest today.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited for our conversation and also to really tap in personally because I do often talk about the profession, of hypnotherapy that I do, and it's honestly a part of me, especially since the past few years, since COVID. The work has gotten deeper. My understanding of the mind body spirit connection has become even deeper. So, me personally, I'm a lover of all things science, a lover of all things spirit. I'm a lover of where they meet practically. Like I love where science and spirituality, metaphysics, even religion, I love where you can see the meeting point of all of it. Like that's my nerdy point. Like I will be able to talk about that and listen about that for hours and hours and hours and hours. And I love to be able to apply it practically. So when I read a book, let's say when I read a book about Kabbalah, it will inform my work and then my work will inform my relationships. And it's like it's all this one universe and it's ever evolving. And even the TEDx I gave, which was now more than 10 years ago, things have evolved so much since then. My work has expanded so much since then. I wasn't always a spiritual person, so I was always an intellect. Like I loved the mind, I loved understanding things. I loved again more things like history and science. So being a spiritual person was like not me. And then after my near fatal car accident, that's my turning point was surviving a really, really terrifying and traumatic car accident, which was my
Sorry.
turning point. And I became spiritual after that as a ever evolving journey, but it was quite immediate actually. And so now my spirituality also is a huge part of who I am, but it wasn't. So that was a big stretch for me, which is something we could talk about. And a lot of people these days are being stretched,
Can we
like
go
pretty much everyone on the planet.
into the car accident a little bit? I know you told me that you weren't able to walk for a little bit. Is that
Yeah.
right? You're in a wheelchair for how long?
About 6 months.
So, I mean, that is a little depressing. I mean, your life kind of shut down and slowed down for a little bit. So, what are some of the positives you gained out of that, though? Everything has to me, which is awesome. You get
Yeah.
something out of everything. So, what did you get out of the car accident?
Something out of everything. Honestly, if I didn't have this positive mindset, which I think came from my grandparents who were actually Holocaust survivors who lost everything, it might be in my genes or in just something I have learned through my father over time. If I didn't have a positive mindset, I'd be dead. I would not have survived the things I've been through because, okay, so the car accident happened. I was 22 years old. I pretty much was just turned 23, maybe. I had the life, I had the job of my dreams and I basically just graduated school. I was in an amazing relationship. Everything was just like on the top of the top. And I had this weird feeling. I went on a trip. It was Memorial Day. I went on a trip with one of my best friends. We went to San Francisco, had a great time. But I had this feeling. I was like in my gut, I was like, something is going to fall on me. Like I said that. I was like, something is going to fall on me.
God.
Yep. Everything's so good. And I obviously didn't imagine it being a car. So I went home and I was the executive director of a online news company. Again, I was very young and I really liked the job. And I had a friend that was my assistant. And when we came back from the trip, basically my email was shut down. I went into the boss's office. He let me go that day. And he basically promoted my friend who was hired after me, yada, yada, because she was like a fourth of my price. Right.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, if that was the thing I was feeling that something's going to fall on me, like I'll find another production job, I'll find another job and whatever. If that was what I was sensing, okay. So then the next day I went to meet a friend to tell her the story of what was happening. And my friend, who is historically late to everything, we were
Sounds
going to
like my
meet.
family.
Yeah, right. So we're going to meet for ice cream, and then I'm on the way to her, and I was in a shopping plaza. I was parked behind a stop sign. I didn't go anywhere yet, and all of a sudden, I'm looking forward, and then my car just like gets jammed. And I flip. I do 3 flips like a roller coaster in my car. I land upside down, and I was hanging there for 45 minutes. So I didn't see the car even coming at me. It was just I was at a stop sign inside a parking lot, right? So the car came at me 80 miles an hour. Basically, it was an older man. He had a stroke. He hit 3 cars before he hit me. And I was hanging there upside down for 45 minutes until the firefighters cut me out. It was a miracle I survived because actually my brother, who I'll say this too. We grew up atheists. We're from Israel. We're a Jewish background, but we were never really connected to it. So he saw my car And it was one of the first things that made him maybe believe in miracles was because I had an SUV and my car was like this crushed around me. Anyway, so they got me out and it was a long recovery process. You know, even still to this day, it made a huge impact on my health.
Can I just
So
ask, what are you thinking when you're hanging in your car in this massive accident?
great
Maybe you don't
question.
remember. I mean, do
I
you
do remember.
remember?
I do remember. It's a great question. So the first thing I'm thinking, am I paralyzed? Because, or am I dead? Was the first thing. Am I paralyzed? And then I wiggled my toes and I thought it was the first thing that gave me confidence. I was able to wiggle my toes and I kind of had the idea that if I was paralyzed or dead, I wouldn't be able to wiggle my toes. So when I was able to wiggle my toes, I was able to have like enough confidence that I can get through this. And then it was so weird. I was so calm. You could say it was shock too. I was just, but I wasn't screaming. I wasn't anything. I was just calm. And then basically, you know, after a while where they're like trying this way to cut me out and trying that way to cut me out, then I started losing it, you know, because they don't want to harm the body further.
Yeah.
So then I just started losing it. And I was like, you got to get me out. I told the firefighter, I was like, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. And so then they just like, they picked me
Were
up.
you just accepting anything that happened at that point? Or you
Because
had so much peace. I mean, it sounds like you're like, I don't know, anyone would not be freaking out.
I wasn't freaking out at all. I wasn't freaking out. Again, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if it was just shock that I was just like in another zone. And also, there's something about like near death experiences. You do kind of like leave your body. It's like they're near death experiences, which is actually what created my whole life going forward. You know, I became spiritual after that with the experience, etc. It's, let's just call it shock. You just get into shock. It's like, again, when I wiggled my toes and I realized I wasn't paralyzed, right? That gave me enough because I broke all my hips. I broke my hips, I broke my pubic bone, I broke my sacrum. It's nice to laugh about these things, right?
I mean, thank God you can now. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So again, because I wiggled my toes, I had enough confidence to get me through that next little time period when they can get me out. And that was kind of, to be honest, I was never an anxious person before that. So that could be the secret to my healing afterwards, right? Because I was a 22-year-old girl, like mainstream girl. I was never someone that struggled maybe a little bit with depression as a teen, you know, but I never was someone that struggled with anxiety. I had full on confidence that whatever I go through, I can get through. But what was interesting
amazing.
is what created the healing after that was because I was such like a normal mainstream girl, you know, when the doctors told me I wasn't going to heal afterwards, like I was going to continue to be in PTSD and continue to not have my full life back, I was like, no freaking way. Like that didn't register, right?
So I want to relate it to what you do today. So how did people comfort you? Because now you're used to comforting other people. So or were you just like, no, I don't want to hear it. You know, like you can't do anything to comfort me. I'm miserable which highly doubt because you're a positive person. But how did people comfort you when you were going
Great
through
question.
this?
So in that moment, I was in a great relationship at that time, where he told me, even if I can't walk again, he's not leaving me, which was
Love.
love. Incredible, incredible person. So that's one thing. You know, I had my parents, I moved back home. I was able to rehabilitate there. I can say, you know, and this is often an issue with people that are healers and empathic and in helping others. We do find it hard to find people to support us. Why? Also, because when you heal yourself, right? Because again, no doctors were really able to do anything for me. I had to find an alternative path to help me. So now, let's say if I were to have a healer, they have to be more intense than me
That's
and
tough.
way beyond me.
No, I mean, it's tough to, that's a lot of pressure on people and pressure on
Yeah,
yourself because
yeah,
you need to go through someone who's technically better than you to get through your situations. I mean, I definitely understand that, but at the same time, how do you define that? Is it based on their education? Is it based on their life experiences?
yes. So, for example, there's this thing I do nowadays. Because I still have to maintain my body to an utmost degree, mostly because I'm very empathic now. I feel energy. Like I've had to become a Jedi again after COVID. I had to become a Jedi because my awareness blew open again. So let's say there's a chiropractic technique that I use to like help my nervous system, help my body. It's called network care. So there's one person in Miami right now that's doing it, and he also was in a near fatal car accident. So you get what I'm saying? It's like kindred spirits. So because he healed himself through this modality, he is someone that can support me. So yeah, in my personal life, it's hard because unless you've really been through what I've not exactly what I've been through, but unless you've been through some sort of challenge, my depth it's kind of can be scary for some people too.
It's okay. It's gonna be okay. Where you're just like, you don't like to compare other people's struggles to, yours is not as important as mine. So it's not so crazy now that I'm discussing it with you.
It's the best feeling in the world when you don't have to explain yourself, right? Like I have a couple friends also where you go through an experience and you don't have to justify it, you don't have to explain it. It's like it can be this weird complex thing that you're like, "Oh, so I even really want to tell this person because are they actually really going to get it?"
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more frustrating telling people something that you feel is like not going to be understood because then it's like, how do we find the words? And then there are the few and far between, maybe more and more so now as people are spiritually waking up, that can get it without you having to like mangle yourself to put across the message. That is the most comforting experience in the world when someone just gets it.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you on that. You're saying that it's hard to find people that can relate. So what do you do? Because it's hard to just keep it to yourself. You got to talk to somebody.
Yeah. So that's why it's funny. Normal therapy doesn't work for me. I have to do like, let's say, so apparently my spiritual lessons come in car accidents. A couple months ago, I was in another car accident and yeah, and I was rear ended. It wasn't bad, but what was interesting, I noticed that my previous car accident was starting to come up and not as in flashbacks, but in the way. So after my accident, the near fatal one, the rehabilitative process was not only physical, but it was cognitive, like I was slower. I had traumatic brain injury. So I like, let's say you ask me a question, it would take me like 15, 20 seconds to kind of compute it. And then when I would say something, when I would try to like, it's like kind of what I'm experiencing right now. It's because I'm tapping into that energy. So it's as if I can't find the words, but like totally magnified. So when you have traumatic brain injury, it's like your brain literally, it gets impact. So the parts of your brain, which are very sensitive, you can't find the words, you have memory impairment, etc. Again, I was 22 years old, right? So I
Yeah.
did a number of things that helped me. So this recent car accident where it was just, I was rear ended, it wasn't anything crazy. It was just enough impact that I started realizing the way I realized that I was having this similar experience was I had to send off a letter in the mail and I just couldn't get around to it. Like the most simple task. So oftentimes people don't realize that trauma doesn't have to be this overwhelming thing. It can just be like you have a piece of mail, you can't get it, you can't send it, or you can't do your dishes. It's like your dishes, they're just sitting there. It's like the smallest things, you can't do, you're overwhelmed by everyday things. So I started realizing I was like, why am I not sending this letter?
I
And
should use that as an excuse why I don't do certain things. I can't do the
well,
dishes.
right. It's a great excuse. But the truth is, people with PTSD, it is an actual sign that the things that they were so easily, like even taking a shower sometimes, like things that so simple, basic hygiene, it's hard for you to get in the shower. It's literally your brain is computing slower. It takes more actual effort to do things. So I realized I was in this experience again. So what happened? I did EMDR, which is a hypnotic technique. It's actually the most mainstream technique that is hypnotic in regular therapy right now. What the practitioner does is you go like this with the eyes and you tell the story that has some of the traumatic charge. And by moving your eyes back and forth, it's kind of like you're in REM sleep. When you're in REM sleep,
Okay.
your brain processes and can alleviate things. So when your brain is stuck in trauma, it doesn't process well. So
Hey.
I was doing the EMDR, right? And what came up was my former accident again. It was coming up again to be even further resolved. And as I was resolving it again this round, certain things that were happening physically in my body again were being relieved. So I mean, there's many, many angles we can go with that. But from the initial accident, getting into how I got into hypnosis as well, I developed really serious pain and fatigue after my accident, like debilitating pain and fatigue that wouldn't go away. And hypnosis, resolving the trauma of the experience I went through helped also alleviate the body pain. So that was kind of my first signal that emotions create distress in the body, again, through my own experience of relieving trauma as a patient pretty much. Oh, I think one of the biggest attributes that I have is commitment. I have a lot of commitment, especially since this experience. I was very committed as well because of the fact that I was one person before the accident, and then my whole world was changed, and I was so young, and it just literally honestly did not make sense to me. It did not
Yeah.
make sense to me that, something happened and now I can't just be normal. Like it didn't and so because of that as a driver for me, and because I actually was able to heal it, and I was able to, get back to a functional life again, I am like, for better for worse, I am extremely committed to my path. I'm extremely committed to, even since, and I've had like extreme health experiences since, because honestly, sometimes when you're in really extreme experiences in life, it creates chronic disease. This accident created chronic disease for me, but I have always had the North Star, the vision. Doesn't matter what is happening in my life. I know I will find a solution. I know I will be better. I have never succumbed to victim mentality. It like for better for worse, because sometimes you just want to be like, oh my God, poor me.
Yeah, no, tell me about it. But it kind of puts your learnings to the test. And but like you said, you are committed. So it was kind of like asking you, like, how committed are you? How much are you taking from what you've learned? And are you ready for a new challenge? So it kind of gives you like a little heads up on the game to move forward. Because this experience it probably educated you in ways, and now you could share your experience with other people in a very confident way.
So I also say I am like God's guinea pig. So when I work with people with disease, for better for worse, I've most likely experienced it. When people come to me, half of the reason they heal is because I have such conviction and such belief that they're going to be fine. The hypnosis is like a side part, but I hold such a strong conviction. Anything can be healed. Such a strong, it's just like belief.
To look them in the eye because you've lived it. And people who see that, they trust you that much more no matter how educated you are. I'm a little biased because I've been through things, and now when I look people in the eye, they trust me. They're like, "Wow, you really lived it." So I have to kinda listen to you.
Exactly. So, with being able to find the right tools, so I have expanded also beyond hypnosis since COVID. I can tell you that story as well. I'm relentless also. One of the things about healing, especially when you have extreme things, because, one of my extreme things is as I've evolved, I've become very, very, very empathic. Like as a child, I was sensitive, like I was aware of people's things and people's emotions. But as I've evolved, I am now super empathic. I'll tell you, one time I was like sitting next to someone who had a toothache and my tooth started hurting. I'm like, what is that? And then I'm like, it's not mine. I'm hyper aware of people's pain.
And then
Okay.
now you're
So
kinda you
now
got,
I
like,
get into the weird
superpower.
stuff. So it
Wow.
is. It's a blessing and a curse. And I'm learning recently how to create more of a blessing, but it's such discipline. It's like you have to become a Jedi. You have to be very aware.
Seriously.
Yeah. And so now, so that awareness, like that big awareness happened after COVID because I got quite sick after COVID too. COVID really hit me hard. And so I had to learn other tools beyond hypnosis because hypnosis for 10 years up until COVID was the tool. Like you could come at me with anything and I'd say, okay, we'll do a handful of sessions. And really, it didn't take too much because the moment you get to the core issue, you can, bring it up and then the body gets the message that it doesn't have to repeat this traumatic issue, doesn't have to repeat the chemical signaling, the neurochemical signaling, the biological stuff that, it's doing over and over and over again just to give you the message that something's not right. Right. So the moment you kind of find that within hypnosis and you alleviate it, the body can just like breathe. It
So
can breathe and then create healing. So with COVID, that was a whole other story. So my tricks, my tried and true tricks that I used
I was
for
gonna say
10 years stopped working. So COVID was a whole other experience. And
they're
so I
like
had to
kryptonite, like, you're
my passion of this work stopped. And so I had to learn other tools that were way more spiritual, energetic.
and it's almost like it's not joyful at the time, but I'm sure afterwards, like, "Wow, I did it. Yep. I can accomplish anything." Like, you almost feel invincible.
Yeah, yes and no. Sometimes you're just tired.
Yeah, well, yeah, everyone gets a little tired. I mean,
Sometimes I'm like, "All right, God, can you relax a little bit? Can we, like, slow down?" I feel like I've lived 1,000,000,000 lifetimes in my lifetime, and I'm really not even that old yet, you know? If I w So another thing I often tell my clients that when they are experiencing chronic disease or trauma or depression, when we go through the healing process and just to go through life, even addiction, is to be intrigued. Okay. So having a sense of intrigue, a sense of curiosity, a sense of like, instead of being the victim to these experiences, when you develop when you look at it kind of like from a bird's eye view, I can say, this is interesting. I wonder why this is happening. I wonder what this is going to teach me. I wonder what comes after this. If you can be intrigued by what this is offering you, a whole other gamut of information can come down. And because, like I like to say, traumatic experiences, when they're on your path, they are here to create an evolution. And the bigger the traumatic experience, the bigger the evolution. And it's your assignment to figure out the way to evolve. And yeah.
100%. I totally agree. You have very cool stories, and like I love like your commitment and your strength. 'Cause I'm all about that. I just want to know, how do you get on a TED Talk, and what's the preparation like?
So it's so interesting. So I was a speaker for 4 years before the TED Talk, and I wasn't actually aspiring to be a TEDx speaker. It was something I was aware of, but it wasn't really like, okay, so oftentimes when one wants to become a TEDx speaker, you get coached, you just have to become pristine. You have to like hit it laser hard. With me, might sound terrible, but I wrote the speech 3 days before giving it. 3 days. The reason I was so confident giving it, it was because it was my lived experience for 10 years before it. So my most difficult part, like you can see all these stories I have of clients and this, and like I've worked with thousands of people, so it's like my most difficult part was to pick the angle for which I wanted to communicate, the angle in which people would understand. Because again, hypnosis, I mean, nowadays people get it more, but back then it was like I was an alien speaking. When I gave this talk, hypnosis, it's like a fringe. So my hardest was how to come across in 15 minutes, right? I had no time to come across with this very big topic the most eloquently I could in the way that can make sense to the everyday human. But yeah, I wrote it 3 days before, mostly because I didn't feel pressure. I was a speaker for 4 years before that. This is what I did. I was speaking of the power of the subconscious mind before I got the TEDx. Initially, I started speaking. I wrote a book for young adults for Holocaust education. And so that's how I started speaking. And then over time in my bio, people would come to my lectures and they would see that I was a hypnotherapist. So they started asking me questions about that. So little by little, I started evolving more into the power of the mind and resilience and things like that. And then actually one of the women that came to one of my lectures 2 years before, she called me one day and she's like, hey, we're organizing a TEDx in Fort Lauderdale, and the topic is inquiring mind. She's like, I think you'd be just perfect for it. And the crazy part is initially I said no because I was supposed to be out of the country by then.
No, no, you can't pass up this.
And then 10 minutes later, I was like, "Oh, I'm an idiot," Like, what kind of person says
Wait,
no?
so let me just butt in for a second. I apologize.
No problem.
You got into a car accident, you survived. Not only survived, you stayed calm for part of it, which is already unreal. And you did a TED Talk. You must have felt like I could do anything. You must have felt so confident after that. I mean, come on, that's pretty amazing.
But for me, thank you very much. Maybe that's one of my drivers to a fault. I never really acknowledge myself in that way.
You should.
Thank you. Thank you. For me, it's just been what I do. It has never also been about me ever, right? It's not like I did a TEDx. It was, I had this information that was burning like a fire within me that if I had a platform to get it out to the world, it was godly, I could say. It was if, my path was created by a higher power and I just listened and I just went with it. I just said, okay, this is the next step. This is the next step. So I don't look at myself, which lately I'm starting to because I deserve it.
I mean, yeah.
Someone recently texted me, a new friend actually, and she didn't know this part of my life. And then she looked me up to add me to Facebook, and then she saw like my bio, yada yada, and she texted me like a few minutes later. She's like, "Whoa, this is so impressive!" And I was like, I read my bio. I was like, "That's pretty impressive."
That's pretty good. Yeah, you're right.
But for me, it's my everyday, day to day. The hypnosis. I used to have an office in Fort Lauderdale and South Beach, Miami. There were times, especially when I worked with sexual trauma, that I would leave the office and be very proud of myself. Those moments, there were distinct moments where I would leave the office and be like, wow.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't wanna leave the office and you have a client or you or whatever you did, and someone's like, "What the hell? Like, you didn't help me in any way." You gotta be proud of yourself. You're making a difference. Who is
But
not proud of themselves if they're making a difference in other people's lives?
thank you very much. I really appreciate that. But for me, it became my work.
You could do bad work. You did good work.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. No,
give yourself credit.
thank God. Thank God. Thank you. I will receive that. I received the credit. And yeah, so what I was saying is like I'd go to work and it was just my work. I would see like client after client after client after client. It was my work, but there were distinct moments where I took a moment and I was like, wow, someone who has experienced sexual trauma as a kid. And then I was able to help them. I was able to empower them. They didn't have to suffer all the symptoms that come from something like that.
I love how you said, wow.
I have had wow moments, but I don't know if it's expectations I have of myself because I wouldn't even call it expectations. It's like, this is who I am and this is what I do. And it's the conviction I have. My work is also the love of my life. Like also don't look at it as work. It's God gave it to me. I don't know. And I'm just a servant and a vessel to this work. And so I should take more credit because again, a lot of people wouldn't take the positive approach. And, I think the difference between a good life and a bad life is you take the garbage, let's say, that has been given to you and you create gold out of it. That is heaven. Or if you take the garbage and you never clean it up and it just smells bad the rest of your life and you're stuck in hell, that's hell. So I chose to not be stuck in hell. And that choice makes all the difference.
Well, let's call it lucky then, because you're very lucky you enjoy going to work every day. So good
Thank
for
you.
you. Because
Thank
some
you.
people don't. So good for you. Give
Thank you.
yourself credit just for that. It was
Yes.
positive attitude and you found a way to enjoy what you do. So if you don't want to give credit for anything, give yourself credit for that.
Yes.
That's hard to do.
Thank you so much. And you know what? I will receive it. I will receive it because again, it's good for everyone to receive, and acknowledge like there's sometimes even with clients, I'll do an exercise with them where they'll be on like a hill, right? And they'll look back on their life and they'll take a moment, especially high achievers, sometimes people that are just high achievers and it can be stressful sometimes when you just go, 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 next, 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 next. And there is an element of never being satisfied as a driver. So I have learned recently, especially again since COVID, where I got really sick again, to slow down, not have to have this high achievement, striving for more. That has been like a whole other game, scaling it down, being content without achieving, being content just by being content with existing, like literally slowing everything down. That is even harder than not the achieving. And so I do this exercise sometimes with clients, when they're in hypnosis and they're like on a hill or on a mountaintop and they look back on their life and they touch certain moments of appreciating and acknowledging themselves. So I guess I have to do more of that as it's a big deal to be in the recognition and
Yeah.
proud, yeah, of
It
self.
is. And there are people who just they don't want recognition. They're like, "Oh, I don't do it for people to say they're proud of me." But I think it's the best feeling when people say thank you and you did a good job. I mean, that means you're really doing it, and I think that you could
So
accept
much.
that.
You know what's so interesting? So sometimes when I was like extremely exhausted and I was like, where does this drive come from? Because I have an insatiable drive. Even now, even going through everything I've gone through with COVID, etc. I have an insatiable drive. And sometimes I'm like, what is this? I'm like, it can't be coming from me. I'm like, I want to take a nap on the couch and just be done. Right. And so I do think it's being a third generation Holocaust descendant
Yeah.
because there's such a scar there. It's like my whole family was obliterated. I have no family because of evil and misunderstanding and humiliation and degradation and murder. And so I have a drive. I remember when I first started doing hypnosis that I feel a little bit emotional right now, but it was my grandmother and my grandfather's brother who survived. My grandfather had like 9 siblings. They all went to Treblinka, murdered on the spot.
So sorry.
Kids. Yeah, just kids and like a whole universe, right? So they survived. They left Poland with nothing, literally, out of surviving hell on earth. And they came and they built a new life they had no money. Literally, my father said my grandfather had a gray sock, a brown sock, no shirt on his back, and they immigrated to Israel. My grandfather was married to my grandmother's older sister for the war. She was pregnant when she got killed by the initial bombs in Poland. So my grandmother was 16 during the Holocaust, during the war. There's first of all, many, many stories we can go in that direction, but I'll just say, my grandfather saved my grandmother's life like 4 times, 4 different times during the war. He was a hero. So I have no excuse, it's just my DNA. He survived the war again with nothing, hiding in the forest. Like, my father would always say, my grandparents after the war were not religious, with everything that happened to them. But my grandfather kept Yom Kippur and he kept Yom Kippur during the Holocaust,
Wow.
meaning when he was hiding in the forest, there was a local priest, that he knew, like that knew the calendar. He was already starving and he kept Yom Kippur.
Can I add
in
something?
yeah,
So which I guess I kind of take on myself that if you don't want to feel like, recognition for what you're doing, if anything, know that these people are so proud of you and that alone should make you feel so great about what you're doing because it's hard to have strength these days. It's hard to take a family experience with my family was in the Holocaust as well, and to use that as drive. So you've already made it no matter what. Everything else is a bonus because
thank you
they're
so
proud of you. And if you have especially family who went through hell proud of you, in my book, it's a win. And you
that's
should
right.
definitely give yourself recognition for that because that's a life goal. When someone tells me they're proud of me, it means everything because it's not like I'm a little kid who's like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you," who has other people that looks up to them. If you have these people proud of you, whether they're here or they're already gone, it's everything. You win. That's really how I feel.
Oh, man, 100%, and thank you that lands. Thank you very much, that very much. My grandfather, who survived the war, he died when I was 7 months old, but I could tell you he's thank you. I could tell you he's my guardian angel. I have such a spiritual connection with him. And okay, so his character, with everything he went through, he was larger than life, let's say, right? And also, he rebuilt a life. He had nothing. He had no family. His family, I mean, the worst of the world ever happened to these people. And they were still kind, generous, bigger than life, so that's who I am. That's like running through me. And, I sometimes get sad that people these days are not like that. Our generation in comparison kind of sucks. It's like the entitlement.
Like, everything slows down, you're just like, "Wait a second, I have
Yes.
this time to think," and some people, they feel very fortunate, and God forbid anything bad happens to them, but they don't have a chance to slow down, and when are you ever gonna figure it out? You have to always keep up with
That
what's next.
is huge. First of all, that's huge. My periods of having to, I call them incubations. And then I want to get back to the motivation because so I'll just say it like this. When I've been forced to slow down again in multiple times in my life, I see it again with intrigue instead of being pissed off. I call them incubations because that is when your spirit is evolving. That is when you're getting bigger. That is when the puzzle pieces are falling back into place. But it requires so much patience with self and the process. But yes, if you never get a chance to slow down, the moment after the accident happened, for better or for worse, there was not going to be a day that goes by that did not have meaning. I was
Thank God.
22. Yeah, I was 22. I wasn't even a hypnotist for a couple of years after that, right? It didn't even come to this work until a few years later. But I was just like, I died that day. I died. I got a second chance at life. And there was no way my life was not going to be meaningful. There's no way it wasn't going to be purposeful. Like, it's just like when you die and you get a second chance, that's it. You really
I can
like
relate.
look at life. Like, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this the way life needs to be done?
I totally understand, and I hope people listen, they understand that you don't need, God forbid, a wake-up call like that, like, start now, like, why wait till tomorrow? Look at everything going on in your life and just be like, "Wow, I don't wanna wait till something bad happens," and if it does, I'll be
Great. When I was first doing hypnosis, I just like wished that my grandparents had access to these healing tools, because after going through such significant trauma, like wouldn't it have been beautiful to just be able to have this tool for them, right? And they were obviously gone by that time. So my motivation for a long time was healing the evil of the world. It sounds like a big task I didn't want to take on, but I was so like, for F this, right? Like if I could have even the tiniest impact on healing trauma so people don't create evil for others, if I could, even impact that in the tiniest bit where I can create more light in the world so there doesn't have to be more torture and more killing and, like baseless things that come from people's childhoods. People do not nice things because they were humiliated, things happened to them. Like if I could do anything, it became a global thing, right? It wasn't just about healing the individual. It was about just shifting the earth. I was so upset, about people doing not nice things. People are humiliating. I say humiliation and degradation and all this propaganda that's going around lately is the beginning of murder.
it's
When
such
you
a waste of time. You're wasting your time on pointless goals. Let's see, should I be negative? Should I make myself train my brain that everything that happens, I have to have an opinion? Like, what are you accomplishing? So people hear your post or they see what you have to say for a couple seconds and they're like, wow, this person has a lot of bad things. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand all the negativity.
so people have been brainwashed, I think
Yeah,
lately.
easily.
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of brainwash because if people are degraded and depressed and debilitated, then they don't have the power to say no to, let's say, consumerism, or I don't want to go too conspiracy theorist, but to government control. When a population is depressed and confused, they don't have the wherewithal to stand up for themselves.
Yeah,
So that's how it starts. It starts with propaganda. It starts with degrading. It starts with confusion. It starts with debilitating. And that has been happening since COVID. So right
yeah,
now, there's a lot of stressed out people. There's a lot of angry people. There's a lot of people that don't even know that they experienced like global trauma. Like no one talks about this. No one knows. It's all purposeful to really debilitate humans. It's actually interesting. Within hypnosis, there's a technique. Okay, so there's a number of different techniques within hypnosis. And one technique who I actually don't do so well with, like everyone has their strengths within the types of hypnosis. It's called to get someone deeper, right? To go into their unconscious, theta or alpha brainwave. It's a confusion technique. So you kind of start talking and like it's a conversational hypnosis technique where you start talking, you say a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and all of a sudden like you're kind of like sleepy and you're confused and it's like, you're in the more hypnotic state. So I do think there is a large scale confusion technique being done right now to the masses,
I
that we're
agree.
all in a hypnotic state, that anything, God forbid, especially kids these days with the content that is on
Oh my God,
YouTube,
it's
social media and
unbelievable.
media, it's like they're confusing you. Everything's rapid. And then you just, any subliminal or overt message they have for you just goes straight in.
Well, we need more people like you that can hypnotize everybody. I mean, it might take a while, but we
So
gotta get
that's
to everyone.
I think people even need to have awareness about that this is potentially happening. I think there's a lot of suspicion, like why am I angry these days? Why don't I am I not able to function the way I used to function? Why is everyone getting sick like they used to not? People that used to have incredible immune systems are now stressed and tired and weak. So, I think people are kind of subtly aware, but I don't think there's any big time awareness that we've all been through significant trauma since COVID. And there are ways, obviously, to get better and heal. But the first thing that needs to happen is you have to be aware that there's something you need, because a lot of people don't even realize that they don't feel good or something's off. Yeah.
So if you could, make that happen and just send one message to everyone as like a wake up call, what would you say? What message do we have to send to people?
So the first thing I would say that I also had to do personally is I had to, first of all, again, be aware. And also, I had to shut off television. I had to be very careful with what I was consuming, social media. It's hard actually because, some days you just want to come home and watch a movie and be entertained. When you used to watch movies, it's like you used to leave and you felt like inspired. It was movies in the 90s or the 2000s, they were just like agenda free, right?
Yeah.
It was just like you had a feel good entertainment and you left feeling either lighthearted or inspired. Right. So the hardest part is sometimes, you just want to watch television. You just want to relax.
It's fine. But
But the
but
difference is these days, the content is different.
yeah,
So, what I would say is if you're watching something and you start to feel heavy and you start to feel weird or you feel like a drain going on in your system, shut it off. Like, that's your signal. This is bad for me. This is poisonous. This is somehow, I'll even use the word manipulating me, right? So, it could be a movie on Netflix. The ones that are produced lately, they're not clean, they have agendas. And when you feel icky,
yeah.
when you feel gross watching something, that's your signal that you're being manipulated.
Because
So
it's not just entertainment these days, it's a message. Like, everything needs to have a message, like, "Do this now. When you finish the movie, go do this and start believing in this." It can't just be, "Wow, we're gonna entertain you with a great movie." It doesn't exist anymore.
doesn't exist. So unfortunately, I have really had to turn everything off. The only thing I could do these days that actually entertains me is read books. Self-development books are great also. It really you have to become like blinders on. If I didn't have a spiritual practice or let's say even a mental practice of really connecting to God, really connecting to my own inner voice, really just blocking out all the noise, which requires I had to become a monk. It requires discipline. I call it being a Jedi or being a monk, or just you have to be very disciplined. And unfortunately, oftentimes it's not fun because again, sometimes you do want to be entertained. But with that said, Sometimes I'll watch, let's say, movies from the 90s or something like that.
That's
So
my
the way
go-to.
I stay healthy personally is A, again, having my own tools that when like noise comes in and it's invasive and it's like creating negative thoughts and you can tell you're getting off track. I have my own tools, hypnotic tools, different things like that. I've had to shut out the noise. And I sometimes just like I watch innocent things. Sometimes I watch like animal stuff, if it's come down to that, or like I'll watch cooking on YouTube because it's neutral, no one's trying to get in my head. So, but even the YouTube commercials sometimes are creepy, right? So I become so deliberate, like kind of like a dictator of the mind that I will not let anything in that is noise, especially if you're someone that has a mission in life, especially if someone that just wants to breathe and enjoy life. You have to connect with good content. You have to connect with holy content, whether it's prayer. It's hard. It's not
Well,
easy.
if we weren't easily influenced these days, you could watch anything and just be like, it's just a movie. I'm not finishing it and thinking anything different. I'm just watching a movie. It could just be entertainment, but we don't think that way because there's so many influences out there. It's like you turn on one thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. You can't hide from it unless you want to. And who wants to? Because you're so curious. Oh, what's this movie about? What's gonna happen? And my God, like it's almost like we're a little nosy about, even though most movies are predictable, like, we have to watch the ones that send such a bad message.
It's purposeful. So even the news being sensational and scandalous and so like I also don't remember the news from the 90s, you can say. I love to reference the 90s because I remember just the innocence.
The good old years.
The good years, I remember it being I so before I was also a hypnotist, I was a journalist. And to graduate, you have to take a class on ethics. I remember I had to write like a 12-page paper on ethics. I actually found it the other day. I was like, "Whoa, I wrote that?" Like, I don't remember writing this. Number 1, number 2, I was like, "This doesn't exist anymore."
No, it
So
doesn't.
so the news is made to make you angry. It's made to make you feel different than the person next to you. It's made to make you separate because guess what? Divide and conquer. If you feel hatred in your heart, if you feel anger towards the person that looks different from you can't focus on the goodness of your life or your purpose or your meaning or your calling or what incredible impact you can have on a person or the world when you're distracted by propaganda made on purpose to make
Yeah.
you weak. Racism and anti-Semitism. So I remember when the whole racism thing started happening. Um, it's within the U.S. I remember I posted one thing one time on Facebook, on my personal Facebook, and basically it was the middle of COVID and the riots were happening, and I said something. So I was like, okay, everyone's on lockdown except for these riots. Like, there's something funny here. I'm assuming they're organized. I'm assuming it's beyond just like friend calling friend saying, let's go, it to get people to do anything, especially during COVID, where it was illegal to leave the house, there had to be some sort of mastermind, some
Just be
organized.
careful, whatever you post on Facebook is true. Like, if you put you're in a relationship, that's official. That's how people know you're in a
Yes.
relationship. If you put it on Facebook, it's set. You can't just tell people. You change your
Right.
status, so be careful
Right.
on Facebook.
So what happened? I basically got lambasted. People I've known since first grade, who have known me forever, who have
So
known that
bad.
calling me racist. I'm gonna unfriend you. How can you say? I'm like,
Unfriend you, oh my god.
right. I don't know. I'm like, did I say something, first of all, racist? No. I just pointed out something that was a bit weird. Okay. I've known these people since childhood. They've known me. Like, I don't have a mean bone in my body. It takes all of my energy to do something. It's not my nature.
It's just a nice thought. Well, you can't do that on Facebook anymore. It's what you said is, "I don't agree with at all." Not like, "Oh, that's an interesting thought." It's, "I don't agree."
Right.
Now you're gonna hear it. I'm gonna unfriend you. I'm gonna post something bad about you. I'm gonna tell everybody. It doesn't it's crazy.
So I felt terrible, obviously. I felt so ripped up and torn apart. I was just sharing something that I thought was truthful, that there has to be something organizing this. And I got ripped apart, literally, by people that I thought knew me. And it was just such a blanket statement. You're racist. You're racist. I'm like, huh? Really? So it really affected me. I actually pretty much stopped posting after that because I felt very shut down. I was trying to do something positive by bringing people's awareness somewhere, and people were violent towards me.
Mhm.
violence in their wording towards me. So it kind of shut me down for a while. And I was like, you know what? Not my battle. I'm going to keep doing what I do, doing my work.
In confidence, because if you delete it, then it's like, oh, you don't mean what you say. So you need to be yourself. Yeah, you have to be careful what you say, but being yourself is so important because people eventually will come back and be like, wow, you're so confident to say that. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes they literally unfriend you forever, but they will come back sometimes, be like, you know what? I appreciate the fact that you feel strong about your opinion.
Exactly. And the thing is, again, there was nothing, zero written that was racist. It was just such the word of the moment. It was trendy, okay, to just be angry and say this. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna. It's not my fight. It's not my battle. My fight is for people with chronic illness and trauma, etc. Fast forward, with everything that's going on in Israel, where I'm from, the place I am like in love with, like the best place on earth, in my opinion. I there's not a place where I find more passionate people and just beauty of nature and like the beginning of religion, the holy place on earth, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Is being, fast forward a few years later, is being demolished,
Yeah,
stepped on, stomped on, criticized, right? And so again, my theme, my topic of life is trauma and illness and helping people with trauma and stuff like that. I was never a political person. When I spoke about the Holocaust, obviously I spoke about not being racist, not being anti-Semite, like seeing people for who they are, who their character is. I was friendly with on Instagram that have never been to Israel, know nothing about what's going on
my
over there.
God.
This was after October 7th, where people were like literally like limbs were cut off of them, raped, brutalized, mortified. And I used to go to those dance festivals, in Israel. I
Wow.
have
So I could say
friends.
hit close to home, like
Like, yeah.
big time.
And any dance festival like does that, right? So I can understand people's frustration with the Israeli Palestinian conflict, especially if you have a lack of understanding on what's going on in that region, which most people do. But then again, I noticed a trend. I noticed a trend. Very progressive people that, the same type of people that attacked me about being racist with no basis were having these very strong opinions and becoming themselves haters of Jewish people. So I was like, what is this? I'm like,
Welcome to our
why?
life.
So what
This is
happened?
reality now.
So I started to realize again, it's propaganda. People are being told what to think. People are being fed by social media. People get their news from TikTok. People are being told to be divisive and be angry. So, this whole anti Semitism thing that is also bubbling up, it's going to sound terrible, but it's trendy. Why is it trendy? Because if you learn to hate someone and all you do is focus on something you cannot control, someone's identity, right? I was born Jewish. I have no control over that. So, you can hate me. You can hate me because I'm a woman. I was born this way, right? So it's baseless. There's nothing I can do to change this. The thing is like I am noticing a trend. If you hit people in their identity, if you hate someone because of their identity and you focus on that, it might feel empowering, but on the bigger picture, it's just a big distraction. You're being distracted. You're being made to feel powerful, but your power has actually been taken away because guess what? You have zero focus again on your truth, on your
That's
empowerment.
right. I love how you said that. Yeah,
Makes sense?
yeah, I was gonna say that, it only works when you're saying it to someone, but someone says it to you, it doesn't make sense at all. So
Exactly.
so stop worrying about everyone else and just focus on yourself because
That's
you're
right.
wasting away your days using your energy on things that are so pointless. Be selfish. Focus on you. Don't focus on other people. Appreciate all the words 'cause I agree. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, focus on things that are important or you're wasting years away. But you know what? These people are not having that chance to slow down and wake up. So hopefully
They're
one day they do.
they're being manipulated and it's a shame and it's sad and there's so much they could do with it. So one last thing also about being distracted. You have one life to live. And if you outsource your conviction and your emotions to something that you don't know is true, it's a waste of precious life. So what I would say is do your research, meet people, have an open heart for everyone. Life is so much more enjoyable when you love everyone.
Agree.
And that should be everyone's aspiration. People should have an aspiration to understand others, contribute your life force, contribute your energy to the betterment of the world. And life is so much more rich and fulfilling and happy that way.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, and it's good to be happy, especially be happy for not doing negative things. If it makes you happy being negative, then you're probably should go to a therapist. You probably should get some hypnotherapy because I
Yes.
don't care who you are, that's twisted. That's it
Yes.
doesn't work, and, I bet if somebody went up to that person and said that's how they were, they'd give them advice not to be that way, but you can't give yourself advice for some weird reason.
Exactly.
Else does it, so go figure. Well, I wanna thank you, and I really hope people listen to this. I'm happy to have you on because it's very comforting to have it from someone who's educated. You know, you can hear a lot of opinions, and kinda like how you said earlier, it's nice to have someone who can relate, someone who understands you the stuff in a whole new level. People should listen to what you have to say. Take it to heart, please, because we can live a whole different life that's positive, and in the end, we'll enjoy it in a whole different way, and, continue to help people, please. Please continue to help people and keep being confident. Give yourself a little more credit,
Ye
and I hope to have you again. I'm hoping we can work together.
yes.
Dana, thank you so much for being on Living Yosh, and please
You.
continue to share your message. Continue to help other people because that's what it's all about. Unfortunately, like you said, there's people out there who need it. Someone's always there for you. Don't feel like you're alone. You're not
That's
gonna make it. And just remember every story has meaning. And
that's
thank
right.
you for your story, and thank you for everything you shared today.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
great day.
This was great. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it more, trust me.
Until next time.
Yes. Thank
Bye.
you.